Hello and aloha to all the people of the planet. Time is around 10:30. Today's 10th of February. And this is the 3 consecutive day I'm making videos. I have to make few videos. I might die, who knows. The biggest hell for me when I die is the regret. Regret, when you regret that you could have done something and you didn't. That hurts. Anyway, let's go to the subject of today. This video is dedicated to all the Baha'is of the world. I've seen many Baha'is have been struggling towards some of the issues with the Baha'i faith, especially in the West. And today I had a discussion with one of the prominent Baha'is about the same thing that he had to be dealing with. And we concluded that there are 5 issues to be addressed to the Baha'is. Number 1, I'm going to say first what they are. I'm going to discuss about the difference between a Baha'i and a non-Baha'i. What is real difference? What is the advantage of being a Baha'i? What I mean. 2, what's the difference between the Baha'i community and other community, non-Baha'i community? Again, what is the advantage? What is the task and difficulties? Number 3, that the entire revelation of Baha'u'llah is subjected to interpretations. We are not at the end of the Baha'i faith. We're somewhere at the end, but not yet end. And then the 4th question is that, so what is the role of Baha'u'llah in the planet? There are some other good people. And finally, what will happen to the non-Baha'is if one day a Baha'i become country? The Baha'is in a country, the majority of people in a country become Baha'i. So, let's discuss about the difference between a Baha'i and non-Baha'i. To simply put, Baha'i knows the address to the truth, and non-Baha'i doesn't. Imagine 2 people are lost in a city. One is sitting in a Mercedes-Benz. He doesn't have the address. He knows where he wants to go, but he doesn't know the address. He keeps asking, I have to go someplace. There's a large building right across from a park. If you go 100 meters past by that, there is a medical center. But he doesn't have the address. This other guy is just walking or driving, riding a bicycle. He knows that exact address. But he's not very active, He's kind of like, sure, I'll get there. So in this way, you see the non-Baha'i is very active, This fellow who doesn't have the address is very active. That is the difference between Baha'i and a non-Baha'i. A Baha'i knows the address. He knows the truth, And to be able to know the truth and the center of the Baha'u'llah, you have to be graduated from your former humanity. It's like you're in the high school and now you're going to university. Why is that? It goes to the word of Baha'u'llah in the first verse of Kitab al-Aqdas. It says, the person who recognized me, he has recognized unto all the goods. Why? It's not very difficult. Somebody who knows Beethoven and appreciates him because he's into music. He might be playing some instrument. The guy who likes Rembrandt, he probably does some painting of his own because he appreciates it. The person who likes Stanley Kubrick, he probably knows what acting is and what movies are. the person who knows Baha'u'llah, he has to have certain understanding of being a human. This is why when he sees, he gets attracted. There is a bit of Baha'u'llah in him. This is where he gets attracted to. If you don't have that, the whole world teaches you Baha'i faith. If you read the entire books, you won't get that. Same as a person who comes and explains to you everything about music of Beethoven and all this. You won't get it. You don't know what that is. You may not even enjoy it, you know. So that's the difference, okay? I remember a relative of mine in Iran, he was telling me that this Mr. Qurbanpur, a Bahai, you know, from Sisan, he says, I worked for him, he never paid me. What kind of Bahai is this? I mean, how do I know it was Baha'u'llah? I have to look at his followers. That's how I know. And he was saying the example of Dr. Shariati, that he says that if you want to know the soap, what soap is the best, you can know the chemical, you know, chemistry of it and whatnot, or simply take it under water and wash it. So the result of Baha'u'llah are those Baha'is. I told him they were very wrong. Baha'u'llah especially warns people in the Kitab-i-Iran. You cannot take people, whether they're very, very big or very, very low, you cannot take them as a standard for recognition of God and myself, he says. If somebody is good because he's a Baha'i, sure, because he has become Baha'i, he's good. If he was not a Baha'i, it would be thousands times worse. This is the situation. I am good because I've got close to Baha'u'llah, I've become better. If the Baha'i faith was not there, I would have been one of the terrorists in Iran right now. Because I wouldn't put up with a lot of things that I don't understand. Thanks to him, I understand now. So, I'm just a Baha'i follower. So we cannot look at the action of the Baha'is. But I told them, he said then, what's the advantage in this guy? I told him the difference between him and you is that you're not a Baha'i, but you're a good person. He's a Baha'i, but he's a bad Baha'i. But he's still a Baha'i. He has a chance to become better and good and change. You don't have that chance. He said, you know, this is real. I told him, you know, why don't, for the sake of argument, 1 week go in the community and call yourself Baha'i. Let me see if you could dare to say that. Have you got the guts for it? But I said, this Mr. Qurbanpur, if they beat the shit out of him, he would not say he's not a Baha'i. That's the difference, buddy. That's the difference between Baha'i and non-Baha'i. Now we're going back to the second part. What's the difference between the Baha'i community and the non-Baha'i community? Baha'i community is a spiritual community. It has a spiritual task. The other communities, they're social communities. The difference? Simple. If you go gun club, we can see all the people with a gun or whatnot, they're together. If you go to a gay club, we see all the gays and homosexuals are there. People of to each his own. That's what social means. So they're very nice, very peaceful, you know. Those who drink, they all get together. Baha'is are not doing that. That's a difficulty. This is why the Baha'i community doesn't seem too advanced. Because we don't understand what they're doing. What's the task? Imagine this guy from Texas has become a Baha'i. All his life he's heard that blacks are, you know, bums. Natives are garbage. Single mother with no husband, he's absolutely a retard. Children, I will not sit down with the children. But as a Baha'i, he has to get in the Baha'i assembly or in the Baha'i 19-day feast. Every 19 days, Baha'is have a feast. There he has to sit down beside a black guy with a criminal background, but he has become Baha'i. On the other side of him, there is a woman with 2-3 kids, a single mother on welfare. According to his social standard, she's a zombie. But there she is. On the other side, there's a man from Middle East, or somebody with a Sikh turban on him. He has to be there and understand that he's equal with all of them. He has to operate among them. This is very, very difficult. It needs a lot of sacrifice. So the Baha'i community might be not very great and very progressing. Maybe it's failure, but it's failing in a university class. It's not failing as a student in the high school. It's not a high school student. This is the difference between the Baha'i community and the other community, because they have a very hard task. Generally speaking, the Baha'is I've seen in Iran, they have a great relationship to Baha'u'llah. They give money, they pray, they attend all the meetings and everything else. So, like a hanging ball by a string, they are attached to the ceiling, which is heaven. But they don't get along with each other. All these Baha'i scholars, I've never seen 2 of them, 3 of them get together in one place discuss about a subject. It's just competition is there. A lot less than other people, way less, but it's there. Mankind have not learned how to be united. They think there's only one way of unity. You have to follow me, like a marriage in the Middle East. One has to obey the other one. Baha'u'llah unity is like this. He says, you're always you, have to be you. We cannot lose our identity. So is your friend sitting in front of you. He's always him. He has his own opinions. You have yours. However, if you sacrifice and try to discover, out of 2, a third element might come out. I've always said this example. There's yellow, there's blue. If they come together, it makes green. By creating green, blue has not lost itself. In the nature, oxygen, oxygen, hydrogen, and hydrogen. Together they make water. In the water, oxygen always exists. It has not lost its entity, its identity. So as oxygen, the world, the universe is not gone, it's neither hydrogen. But they have something new, water. They feel richer now. I'm hydrogen, but also water. You see? This is where the Baha'is have difficulties. Mankind has difficulties. We don't see it with the eye of Baha'u'llah. In the eye of Baha'u'llah, no one is allowed to feel bigger and better than others with reference to God. This is sheer ignorance. Bob goes, he says, you can't even prefer and say I'm better than a pen. Even this pen writes things in its own class, in its own existence and its level. It's not comparable to you. You're not better than a pen. That's in your hand, he says. You know, he says if you make a person sad, just make him sad. You can't sleep with your wife for 19 days. Or you have to pay, I don't know, 19 karat of gold. This is a rule of Bob, of course. Baha'u'llah doesn't say that. This is where the problem is in the Baha'i community. We have great relationship with Baha'u'llah. We all love our father, mother, whatever. But as a brothers and sisters, we don't get along. That's what the problem is, okay? So, enough said. Let's get to the third one. This discussion came today that a whole lot of Baha'i concept, even Baha'i revelation, the Baha'i laws and rules are completely outdated, it seems. He was mentioning, for example, Baha'u'llah says if a man from village marries in the village as opposed to the city, the dowry in the village has to be silver, dowry in the city has to be gold. It's not applicable, he said, right now. Or when Kitab Aqdas says if somebody burns the house, burn him. It seems very violent. Or there are other statements. Many statements like this. I've seen it. Abdul says all these planets, they go every 24 hours around. That's not true. I'm going to have to tell you later on when I talk about exactly what infallible means. So, this is the answer that, in my opinion, a Baha'i has to give to others when they ask. The answer is this. Everything that is in the Baha'i faith is subject to the interpretations of the individuals. Every individual is allowed to see it in its own ways. All of it is respected. None of it is accepted. None of it is authentic. But it is for that person. We're all sitting in a chair looking at this scene in the theater. Every one of us has a different, angle to the truth. Okay? So, when Baha'u'llah comes, we tell him that, sir, I love you, I believe you, but I can't accept you because the Kitab Aqdas is not yet revealed by you. Can we say this? Can we say that? Well, we don't know exactly what you're saying, Baha'u'llah, because Abdul Baha hasn't come to interpret what you mean. So as Shobi Effendi. We can't say this. Okay? We're not followers of Baha'u'llah because of what he says, or even what he did. That's a different reason. We're followers of Baha'u'llah because we find ourselves in him. Just like you see your mothers, oh gosh, my mother, my father. You see, sometimes I look at some certain children, they feel totally like my children. Or some people are like my father, my mother. There's a different... This is why we're attached to Baha'u'llah. We identify ourselves with him. He's a reminder of what we can be, what he tells us. We feel peace. We feel we have achieved something. We feel fulfilled. As I said, there's something in us and him that connects us. We are a bit of him. Okay? So, but anything that Baha'u'llah said, for the time that he was in, and as the time changes, it is the same thing. It's the same truth, but evolves. For example, in Kitab Aqdas, it says marriage 2 wives. Abdul Baha says 2 means 1. Is he abrogating the rule of Baha'u'llah? No. I have my own reason, but that's not really the only reason. At the time, all the followers of Baha'u'llah, 99% of them, they were come from Muslim background, all they had 2 wives. Baha'u'llah says 1 wife, everywhere says divorce their wife. So there would be chaos. So he says 2. But he doesn't say, don't go more than that, But he says there has to be, equality. justice between the two. Abdul says that's an impossible condition that cannot be met. Therefore, this means one. Because there has to be equality, it cannot be there has to be one. Therefore, one man, one woman. And the one man and one woman, the woman or the man should not obey each other. That's classic. They have to see what they can do out of each other. Just like they make a baby. Same way they have to make a relationship that both of them nurture from it and enjoy it. It's an art. It's a task. It's to understand the deeper meaning of the unity. So, it doesn't matter what people they say. Tell them that all of this is subject to the interpretations. Why? Because Shaykh Effendi says, if universal laws of justice says something that's not, if I find that it's not in the spirit of the faith of Baha'u'llah, I will ask them to change it. I insist. Well, if he was alive, then we would tell him that, sir, why does it say this, why does it say? He would answer, but he doesn't exist. Here's the problem. Without him, without this function of interpretation, Baha'i faith is doomed. What did Shaykh Effendi do? He did not elect a person. It was not necessary. The framework was all interpreted by Abdullah Shaykh Effendi. So he said, after me, there has to be a universal laws of guardianship. He calls it Dar al-Wilaya in Persian. It is supposed to be the third physical building built in the Holy Land. And he says it's the center of interpretation of the Holy Writing, complementation to universal laws of justice. Universal laws of justice can enact the law as long as they know the interpretation, but they're not allowed. This entity is not allowed to interpret. Every Baha'i can, not universal laws of justice. It is what they say themselves. The function of interpretation is not given to them. So, who's going to interpret? Everybody for himself. There will be chaos. So, Shaykh Effendi said there has to be universal laws of guardianship. I, as an elder, said that it has to be 5 women. That was my final decision, me and the other two. That there has to be a minimum of 5 women. And they act just like the member of Universal Laws of Justice. Universal Laws of Justice enact a law within the framework of the Baha'u'llah's law. They cannot abrogate it, but they can bring new ones. The Universal Laws of Guardianship also interpret the religion according to the principle of the Baha'i faith, where it says religion has to be according to science and logic. They interpret it, but within the framework of the interpretation of Shaykh and Abdullah, they cannot abrogate that. They add the new interpretations. Therefore, Baha'i faith becomes a dynamic religion. Foundation and the skeleton of it is revealed by Baha'u'llah. The rest of it is up to mankind. Capiche? Okay. So, comes to the 4 questions. Then people say that, so if all the Baha'i writings, all of it subject to interpretation, all of it. Me, I say all of it. Even the idea about God, everything. Then they said, oh, then what is Baha'u'llah doing here? What's his role? If in fact universal laws of justice and universal laws of guardianship can interpret according to him, we really don't need him. Might as well say, okay, you replace yourself with these 2 houses. Wrong, 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 wrong. Who's Baha'u'llah? I will explain that later on when I talk about the origin of existence, where everything comes from. Baha'u'llah is the manifestation of the being that everything in the universe is a projection of it. What we as a human know the material existence is through 5 channels, seeing and this and that. We don't have other organs, other senses. what we know and what is a fraction of what still is there. The layers, of existence that we have no comprehension to it. He is that. So what? So he's big. He's gigantic. Is that a difference? No. That is not it. There's something else. Baha'u'llah, is the manifestation, is a window, okay, where God speaks to us. Baha'u'llah is only mouthpiece, is what God says, not what God can do. If the mirror reflects, if the sun reflects in the mirror, you can see the sun in the mirror, but that's not really the sun. If sun comes in the mirror, the whole earth is gone. But it's enough of it that we can recognize. It's like your father talking to him on the phone through a Skype. You see him. He talks to you. So no doubt in the world that's him. It's legal. You can take him to court. You say it's him. Is it? No, you touch it. It's glass. You ask him, Dad, can you give me $20? He says, how? I'm in the phone. I can't give you money. All I can do is tell you that how to go get it. Where is it? Baha'u'llah is that word of God only for the people of the earth. Only for this duration of the Baha'i faith. Not any other time. That's why Shoghi Effendi says, the truth in the Baha'i faith is relative to us, to this time. It's not absolute. So, but even still is not this. Through this window, Baha'u'llah wants to tell us about that magnificent being, which everything is a projection, an emanation of it. Imagine that God is sitting, and he's sitting and is breathing and it exists. It glows from his surrounding, his head all around it, the entire universe. He didn't make it. There's no making involved. And they're not him either. It's an emanation. It's a projection. Some people say like a spit comes out of your mouth, but the spit is not you. Even it's not that. There's nothing of God in it. It's just when he is, these things are there. When sun is, the light comes. It's just, light is projection of it. Life in the earth is a projection of existence of sun. Sun does not create life here. But what exactly is Baha'u'llah? Let's dig a bit deeper. People talk about spirituality, but they don't know what it is. A spirituality which combines, as Shoghi Effendi says, as Baha'u'llah says, the perfection is a I don't know, I can't remember in English, but is a compilation of all the good things, of all the attributes, spiritual attributes. It takes 7 processes to get there. First, we have instinctive desire. When we act, we go to the second valley of mood. If the mood is good, we go to the third one, good habit. Habits are good, we get to the fourth one, ethics, good or bad. Bad ethic or good ethic. Then out of ethics, we do good deed. The deed that makes us to become to the 6th level, kind, generous. That is the final product. Baha'u'llah is the maker of the kindness. Kindness is not an emotion. It's not. If you go in the next life, you see it. It's the most difficult one. You cannot ask Baha'u'llah to make me kind. He can't. Because he's given you will. You only can do it. But if you ask him money, so sure. Give me anything. Oh, okay. Kindness, no. That you can't. Make me a spiritual, no. That you have to do it. So you see how much you have to work physically and make money and then give it to somebody, God knows how many times, in order for you to understand and enjoy kindness. That's it. That is what Baha'u'llah is. So what I told you is the maker of the kindness. He has invented a machine, Baha'u'llah, that if you use that machine, you get all turbocharged. You get all these attributes and qualities. If you talk to anybody in the world, you say, yeah, at the end of the day, all the religion means to be good, to be this. You tell them, okay, can you tell me how should we be good? They say, well, through actions. Can you mention what are the actions that we can do to be good? To give. Oh, no, real. You can give somebody and can kill him. He will go into something, kills himself. I brought this mentioned this before. Bill Gates goes on the next live and says, God, I don't know, maybe I didn't understand who you are, but I gave a lot of things that I had in my life. God says, oh, I appreciate it. But, you know, you have to see the result. And so I spent $1 billion, I don't know, to create a vaccine for the AIDS. He finds that he made a mistake. This was within the nature itself to protect humanity. The virus of AIDS is there so people don't go too far. It's like a stop sign. You remove the stop sign. Now people are going to do this because there's a vaccine now. It's very difficult to know what exactly to do to become a spiritual. There's a verse in Quran. It says, "Tijaratan lan tabur," a business that does not gain any profit, does not yield any profit. Many actions are like this. So what did Baha'u'llah make? What's his machinery? It's called teaching Bahai faith. When you teach Bahai faith to others, you start a relationship with that person. Not out of money, not out of social gain. You just want him to become happy, to know Baha'u'llah. In this manner, you're giving your time, which is money. You're patient. You're using patience. You're humble because, you know, he's learning from you. You're just like a child, like a teacher to the students. You're a lot of humility used. You're trying to protect him. If he asks for help, you're trying to help him. If you look at it with your teaching, you gain a whole lot of attributes. This action is not possible for the non-Baha'is. You can't simply go do good things here and there and, you know, you think it's going to give you any result. And at the end of the day, well, we'll discuss about it. If you don't have these attributes, you die on the other side when you born on the other side, or you die out of here and you go to the other side, to the digital world, you're a handicap. Yeah. This body is just a laptop. That's not you. It is yours, but it is not you. On it is installed software, which is a spirit. Without that, you cannot think. Thinking is because there is a spirit installed on the body of humanity. Animals have that too. Plants have that too, but it's a software. It goes and repeats itself like in a loop. Okay? The software. So the software does not go more than what it's in it. Humanity's software, which is his spirit, is different. It does a lot more in thinking and imaginations and everything. But even that is not yours. Even in English, you say my soul, my spirit. It's your property. It's not you. You are a third one. I call it self. You're the person behind the computer, which has a software, and you speak. Yes, if you want to build this house, you have to use the computer and the software to think how to build it. But what to build, where to build, what color, those decisions are not from the spirit, they're not from the body, it's from something else. That's who you are. But that thing, when you die, does not have these qualities. Baha'u'llah says, the world is like a matrix. The child inside says that, what is this leg? What is this? What's that? It grows up. The whole world becomes too small. It wants to come out. It dies out of there and comes here. If it didn't have a leg or a hand, it's in his handicap. The whole thing here that you see, we're in a womb. All around us, surrounded by the spirits. It gives us food. Every day. We don't know it. It's not God. It's the people that are dead on the other side. They're keeping this nursery, one of the many in the universe. That is the destination. So Baha'u'llah has come, the inventor of the kindness, and all other attributes. A system called Bahai faith. The only purpose of it is that so we can communicate. It's not to present you with some science, some knowledge. It's all bullshit. It's a means for us to communicate. That's his goal. He says, the purpose of this revelation is that the fight and battle and all this hatred goes away and people become united. I created a cement for you, Play along, so you become better. Knowledge? For knowledge, Baha'u'llah doesn't go. Knowledge of mankind is way over. No prophet has the knowledge of all these scientists. They don't. Manifestation of God, God's purpose is not to bring something that man can, to fix economy, fix a traffic light. Well, maybe we can do those things. There's something we can't. We don't even understand it. That's the dimensions of the spiritual dimensions. Okay, buddy? Go to the fifth one. The question finally came that, okay. So, one day, there is a universal law of justice, there's a universal law of guardianship, and 70% of Canada, 51% over become Bahai. What happens to non-Bahais? In the Bahai faith, politics is separated. It's different. It's not to be mingled and mixed with religion. This is still is there. Universal laws of justice, universal laws of guardianship, National Spiritual Assembly, Local Spiritual Assembly, which in future become local laws of justice, national laws of justice, national laws of guardianship, local laws of guardianship. All of it is the government for the Baha'is that they like to follow it. There's no force. Baha'u'llah is not a dictator to come here and make everybody become a Baha'i. A, B, to make all the Baha'i to become completely forcefully Baha'i. That's the greatest blasphemy to him. He's defender of the willpower. The biggest commodity that God is defending is the willpower, free will. If somebody can come tonight to destroy this planet into half, he will not stop it. He says, you know what, he could do it, let him do it. They won't. If that was the case, that he wants to dictate things, well, he was here, he was the greatest politician of all. He could have taken over Iran. Bob could have taken over in Iran. He had 1 million followers in no time. Baha'u'llah is the same thing. They don't want to do this. You see, this is not the part that they're interested. That means they don't want force. No one is allowed to force anybody. This is why in the Bahai faith is really forbidden to even advise a person spiritually. It's forbidden to tell him what he has to do better, what not better. He should fast, he should pray. None of these do's and don'ts is not our right to each other. We know we're different as a Baha'i, but we should not differentiate ourselves from the non-Baha'is, because we might get out of the Baha'i faith and that guy, he might enter into the Baha'i faith. So we don't know. See, no one knows his own end. That's what the word is. So what's going to happen? In that society, there is a different series of administration that we have a hint towards it. In the Baha'i faith, it says Baha'i governments. We have heard this word international government. International government, national government, local governments. These are Baha'i government. Why? Because majority of the people voted for it. It's up to the society how much of the rules they want to implement. They may not go implement the law of Baha'u'llah where it says, burn the guy who burns the house. They might not. It's up to them. Universal Baha'i institution, they will not interfere in that. Because all of it is a volunteer things. Nobody's forced. Even the Baha'is in the community, these are fundamentals of the Baha'i faith, they cannot force Christians or Muslims to follow Baha'i rules of marriage. They can't. All of them, they will have Sharia law of their own. In a Baha'i government, Baha'is, they may vote for a non-Baha'i. Because its prerequisite is not to be a Baha'i, to be a spiritual. This deals with the social and economical issues in a country. Baha'is, they might find a non-Baha'i is very much talented in that. So, in that case, when the Baha'i government is formed, the Baha'i government and its member, they go to the Baha'i meeting. They follow and obey in their personal life whatever is in the rule of Baha'u'llah. They pray, they fast, they go to 19-day feast, they marry accordingly, they divorce accordingly. All of it is lawful for the Baha'is as well as for Christians, as well as for the atheists. So, a spirituality of the people in the Baha'i faith is up to the people, because thousands of times Baha'u'llah says, I said this thing to you. You want to accept it, accept it. If you don't want it, don't accept it. He says that. This is the motto. This is the slogan of the Baha'i faith when it comes to the religion. There is no conversion by force. He was even bringing this prominent Baha'i, this right of God. Every Baha'i has to pay 19% of his extra wealth. Once he paid off his house, his car, his every, required things in life. Anything over that, 19% of that, once in a lifetime, has to give to the Baha'i faith. But there's no force. This giving in the Baha'i faith, again, it's a volunteer matter. If somebody doesn't pay, nobody should come and get him. Baha'i laws are not political laws. They cannot be implemented politically. Not at all. Okay. Have I got all the fives? I think so. As much as I understand, I'm the elder of God. There's no doubt that I can interpret on the will of Baha'u'llah. But by that token, if anybody thinks I am, some spiritual things like that, he's full of it. I don't need to be even a spiritual to say what I say. I don't know. I am or I'm not. It's nobody's business. It's Baha'u'llah's business. He knows I am or not. For anybody in the world to follow me, to take me as a role model, tell him go to hell. There's only 4 infallible beings. Bab, Baha'u'llah, Abdul-Baha and Shoghi Effendi. Everybody else is the same thing. Just simply because somebody has a function of doing a responsibility is not better than others. No way, shape or form. Baha'u'llah used to have a lot of people sent to go here and there and there. They would do what he wants them to do. They were not better than others. They just were fit to do the job. Okay, Allah, thank you.